Welcome back to Two Gals and a Glass Half Full. Today, we're going to be talking about toxin-free living, but kind of like a home edition about everything you bring into your home. We have a special guest that we're very excited to introduce. But before we get started, Dr. Jess, what is in your glass?
I'm working on my water today. And so this is one of my favorite water bottles because it's insulated, so it keeps it cold. Obviously, it's got like our little logo for the clinic, but then also it reminds me that 80% is good enough. So being imperfect, that's okay. So it's just that little like, I like the sticker. It helps. So
Nice.
Dr.
A
Bobby,
good
what's in your glass?
reminder.
Yeah. Um,
I am having water as well in my, you can't see it because of the thing, but crunchy glass. So,
mhm.
um, plain old water.
I like it. And so with us today, we've got a special guest. This is Megan Mikkelsen. Did I say that correctly? Mikkelsen?
Mikkelsen.
Mikkelsen. I was like, ah. Anyway, so Megan, before we do your intros, what's in your glass?
Water.
There we go. I like
Water
it.
all around.
Yeah. So Megan, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. I'm Megan Mikkelsen. I have a master's in public health. And interesting enough, I was not taught about toxins in my education experience, even though a lot of what I learned in school was about populations being impacted by health conditions. Many times that was environmental, but it wasn't brought down to the level of where we have personal control. And so I worked in public health for over 15 years for the state, helping people choose healthier options and kind of embrace health. And COVID happened, and my life turned upside down. But before that, and I left state government with that because it was too much. But before that, I realized that there's so much that people don't know about the control that we have in our lives and how we can improve our individual health and our experience through what we're choosing. And so I started my podcast and my business to kind of help people transition from not knowing very much about making better choices and really how to implement those so that they can make themselves and their families happier and healthier. It kind of started when my daughter was 1, and I first realized really how little products are controlled in our system, and how we are marketed to constantly, and we have to use our own knowledge to really decipher the marketplace so that we can make healthy choices. And so I just have continued to immerse myself in learning more and more with that background of learning how to read research articles, how to determine what is healthy and safe, and then also how to share that information in a way that's digestible and easier for people to implement in their daily lives. So that's me. Now my daughters are quite a bit older. I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I like your 80% rule because it's really hard to have a teenager and encourage a healthy life 100% of the time. I mean, honestly, it's really hard for anyone to be 100% perfect. And so I'm always working on just doing a little bit better.
Yeah, no,
That
I
20
love that. Yeah.
that 20% is very important. That's a lot of grace and a lot of life, and enjoy those things. And we've talked a lot about, especially when it comes to toxin free and changing our products and changing what we use. It's no, you're good. Um, uh, but changing our products, like you can't just go change everything at one time. You can, if you have the money, you can. But there's some products that, for example, I will give my mascara. It's a little bit not on the toxin free, but I love it, and I can't find one that's substitute. So for me, that's my 20%. But the rest of what I put on my skin, is healthy. So I think that 20% and having a lot of grace with that's important.
Yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Megan, like, so your why, obviously, like your background is like you're smart and super educated and like have a better understanding of like the impact of how products fit into our society, right? On like that bigger, like scale. But like when it comes down to that like smaller individual scale, and we're looking at us like as a human or us as like a home, like what are some of like the, things that we can, as far as like mindset goes, and we're looking at toxin free, like how can we start to shift that mindset for like this product being toxin free, but then also functioning? And, like how does that shift start to happen with like the people that you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of individual, but I will say that that mindset is a really important part of it, because I think a lot of people make the easy choice because they don't feel that they know, they might think that they're not smart enough to understand label reading, or they may not feel like they have enough information to do the label reading. And I think mindset is helpful, because if you just know that you're going to make one better choice, then the next time do a little bit better, I think that is really helpful. And there is some trial and error, right? Like not everything is going to work. Like you were saying about your mascara, like you've tried safe mascaras and you just haven't found one that you like that works. And so asking around, I think, is really helpful, but also educating yourself on how to read a label so that you know you're not just being swindled by marketing words is really important as well. So that's kind of what I teach, is really how to read the ingredient label, and then also how to systematically go through the things in your home so that you are minimizing the toxins where you can, in a way that isn't overwhelming or going to stress you out in the meantime,
Oh yeah.
I know, like when I've gone to like to a store and like you're sitting there in an aisle like trying to read, like sometimes I don't have time to sit there and look up every single ingredient. Um, and that's where marketing, sometimes I know there's the term greenwashing. You
Mm-hmm.
try to like make a good decision based on what you see on the label, but sometimes um, what's being presented to you isn't always the full truth, I should say.
Right. Yeah, definitely greenwashing. If your listeners are familiar with greenwashing, it's really tough. And I even for my friends that like think they're making a better choice, and 9 times out of 10, they are being greenwashed. And I think that once people realize that they're paying more money for a product that might not work as well, and then also they're being tricked by it, like that is pretty frustrating. And so I think that's why the education is important, to really know how to read a label. And I agree, it's very difficult to be standing there in the aisle of Target or wherever you shop, and especially if you have little ones that are tugging on your sleeve and saying, "Hey, I'm tired of doing this." And let's be honest, like those words are really hard to decipher and read and figure out. And sometimes it could be a really long word that you can't pronounce, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's unsafe. So it's really just depends on the specific ingredient.
Mhm. So where do you have people typically start? If they're like, I don't know like
Yeah.
anything about labels, like what's our step one?
Yeah. So, step one, I think, is to pick the product that you want to switch out first. And for me, if we're talking about products in our home, I talk about duration and exposure, and starting there. So, something that you're exposed to constantly, and for a long period of time, that's what you're going to want to start to switch out first, because that's probably having the biggest impact on your health. So, for me personally, when we're talking about home products, that's laundry detergent, because you're wearing your clothes all day long, you're sleeping in your sheets all night long, and those clothes likely are holding on to some of the chemicals in your laundry process, and so they're on your skin a lot. So that's where I like to start, and I like to figure out what people's laundry process is, because sometimes that might include dryer sheets, or that might include a fabric softener, not just a laundry detergent. And so I encourage people to do their own research on dryer sheets, and you will find that they're not healthy. They're not good for the environment at all, and they contain a lot of chemicals that coat your clothing and in many times break down your clothing sooner than it needs to be. It's just really damaging to the fibers. So it's not even good for your clothes. And then break down that process and eliminate and change one by one. So I have my favorite brands. I love Meliora. It's a brand you're not going to find in most stores. You're going to find it maybe at a co-op or online, but I find that it works the best. And you truly don't need fabric softener, in my opinion. And I think people are often just used to what their parents did or what their mom did. And so they often make choices that are not based on facts. It's just kind of like, oh, this is what I've always used. They're not making a deliberate choice. So that's kind of where I would start typically, is with breaking down your laundry system and individually either eliminating a step or finding a better product for that step.
Mm-hmm. And then like with the dryer sheets, do you typically recommend those like wool balls instead, or?
Yeah. I have a podcast called Toxin-free Talk, and I had a laundry expert on he has a book about laundry. His name's, he's just really funny. But anyway, his book is actually very interesting, a whole book about laundry, but it has lots of tips about how to treat stains. And he also lives a very toxin-free life, and he really supports toxin-free laundry cleaning systems. And so most people are really worried about the static cling when it comes to dryer sheets, and that's why they use them. But there's lots of ways to eliminate static cling. And wool balls, I think they help fluff things. I don't think they necessarily help the static cling as much. But the biggest tip for static cling, if people have an issue with it, is to separate your clothes when you dry them by the material and not over dry your items. So if you have a lot of synthetic fabrics, you're going to want to just really not over dry them, maybe even pull them out when they're just a touch of wetness still, and don't dry those items that dry super quickly with things that take a lot longer, because that's going to build up that static. So just a little tip.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that, because like when, because we switched to the wool balls a while back, and it was like, what if we pull out part of this that's already done and then leave those heavier cotton clothes? And it's just like, well, that kind of makes sense, because this was already dry. It decreases your drying time as well, which is decreasing the electricity.
Right.
So it was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like, so if you like, so I do, I set timers for everything. So put it in and it has a timer, but then I'll just kind of set a timer on my phone. And then I know, go ahead and check, because like all my clothes that I run in and whatnot, that's all going to be synthetic.
Right.
But yeah, that it works great. I mean, we don't have any issues with static,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that people, well, I'll just say this. Fake scents, really chemical scents are there because a lot of these traditional products don't necessarily clean as much as you think they do. And so they're really covering up any sort of smell with a fragrance. And so I have found personally, and I have lots of friends that have done this, when they have quit fragrance, when they have really eliminated all fragrance from their lives, they are finding that they are more sensitive to artificial fragrance. They also can smell things better, which ding, ding, ding. I think we need to all be avoiding fragrance in our lives if our sense of smell is better when we're not around synthetic fragrance. But what I wanted to say is that a lot of people are worried about, okay, like you mentioned your running clothes. Well, there are ways to defunk your clothes, and you can soak them in your tub with some unscented detergent and an oxygen brightener, and it will eliminate some of the worst smells you can imagine. And even like, towels that just kind of get that musty smell, or, old running clothes. And you don't need a highly scented chemical detergent to get that scent out. And so people are just always kind of amazed by natural products actually working. And I think it's just thinking about it in a different way than the way we always have.
Yeah. And what we do, we have like a small trash can, like it's probably, 2.5 feet tall, but like
Mm-hmm.
skinny. And so I just fill that with water and I like leave it next to the washer. And then that way, like when I have like super stinky stuff, I fill that real quick and I drop it in. I can let it soak. And that way, as I'm running around doing other stuff, then I can go ahead and have it ready to go. And I don't have to like I don't have to go so far to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I know it seems like not a big deal, but now you have the wet clothes and you're trying to wring it out, it's the whole
Yeah.
thing and you're
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
Um, and so that little trash can we already had, it was just in the garage. And so I was like, you know what? Why don't we pull this over here? And then that way I can, when we were potty training our little one, oh my Lord, I thought we were gonna have poop
Mm-hmm.
stains in the pants for the rest of our lives. It stinks,
Yeah.
right? Because that process is like months long. But I'm telling you, if you just soak it, and we don't use anything that's scented, I mean, totally
Mm-hmm.
fine. Comes right out. Um, just does need a little soak before. If it's
Yeah.
stinky.
Yeah. That goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. I'm telling you. Yeah. Um, so we start with laundry, right? And we think about, and I love that
Yes.
concept because it gives you a very tangible way to think like, if I've got this elephant that I'm trying to eat, right? I get overwhelmed and then I run away because I don't even know where to start. So we look at
Mm-hmm.
like exposure. So
Mm-hmm.
the other thing I think of as exposure is like what you put on your skin, right?
Right.
Because if you put it on in the morning and it's on and you're absorbing it and the integumentary
Yes.
system, all of that, it's the largest organ in our body is our skin. So like what are some of the steps you take with like skin stuff? Because I mean, as females, we use a
Mhm.
lot of different products on
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. So again, the products you use the most often are the things that I have people work on first. Deodorant also because it is linked with so many really harmful cancers and so many other things. So I do encourage people to switch deodorant first. And typically most people are wearing deodorant every day. So that's the first one to switch. Um, and then as far as your skincare routine or your makeup goes, so like let's say you want to eventually switch to all toxin free, I definitely would start with skincare because you're likely using it more than makeup. Or, some people don't wear makeup every day, they only wear it once a week. So definitely skincare would be where I would start. And just chunking it out like that. So like do your skincare routine and then think about if you're going to your makeup, your foundation, if you're wearing your foundation every single day, or that covers a bit more of your face than say eyeliner or eyeshadow. So I would, minimize, or I put those lower on the list, I should say. But some people really feel like once they learn this knowledge, they just want to switch out everything all at once. And I get that too. But a lot of people want to do it gradually. And so I support that because I also frequently say, use up what you have and then switch. And that makes it a little bit more digestible and it's not as overwhelming for people. And it doesn't feel like they have to research every single product. And then, once it's gone, then they can research that specific product, decide what they want to try, and then order it and use it. So that's typically what I recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if I find like a new product that in the store with a little one, you don't have time to like stand there forever. So sometimes I'll just like take a picture of the back and the ingredients. So that way later at night I can kind of look at it then when it's not so it doesn't feel so rushed or time crunch.
Yeah.
But it does take some thinking ahead. You can't not the last minute I'm out of shampoo today.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And then speaking of hair care, I think hair care is one of the hardest things just because there's so many different types of hair, Some people have drier hair. Some people have oily scalp. Some people have scalp conditions where they feel like they need a medicated shampoo. That one is pretty hard. Not to mention prices. Like there is a huge, vast scale between pricing for hair products, especially. You've got your $4 Suave, and then, salon quality that's, $75 a bottle of shampoo. I will say that in my experience, that there is something to be said for quality ingredients and price. And often, if something is truly quality ingredients and is more expensive, typically you will find that you can go, that product will last longer. So when you go to buy it, you might feel like, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. Let's say for shampoo, let's say you decided to upgrade your shampoo and you're like, oh my gosh, this is just so expensive. When you first use it, try using less. Don't automatically use the same amount that you were using with your cheap drugstore shampoo. You might find that you can use a lot less product and it will go a lot further. And I just think that some people are they get caught up in price, and I get it. I mean, everybody is really worried about money these days, seems like. And so I get that, but also think about how the quality ingredients might factor into the price. And at the same time, just because something is expensive does not necessarily mean that it has safe ingredients. Some of the most expensive skincare out there, I don't know why it has that price tag, because it's not necessarily safe. It's not necessarily tested for safety in a lab, for the price that it should be. It should be tested in a lab for safety, but no, they claim they have the best product and they put the highest price tag on it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is safe. So you do truly have to make an educated choice and read ingredient labels and educate yourself on the products that you're choosing.
I find one of the hardest things about switching products is the feel of what you're used to. And sometimes the product is different. So a lot of examples of this, one is, there's some like other types of toothpaste out there, or that are like powder, that go on like that. It's just a weird feeling in your mouth if you're used to a certain toothpaste, or like shampoo that doesn't lather, it doesn't build that huge soap that you're used to. One I know we've talked about before is like cleaner. My family, and I will admit, I still struggle with this. We grow up with Clorox wipes and we Clorox wipe everything, where Dr. Jess's family grew up with vinegar, and I smell the vinegar and I'm like, oh, and I can't fathom like, how is that the same clean, when it really is, and it's probably better for you because it doesn't have all the chemicals from the Clorox. But it's habits to break and changing your mind and your thought process. And I think sometimes that's the hard part, versus just going to get the product.
Yeah. And I think going, like, you can't buy a different product and expect that it's going to be the same. You might get the same end result, but the process to get to the end result might feel or look a little bit different. And I think having an open mind when you're trying something new is just that, I'm trying something new. I'm going to give it a full go and see if I like this or not. I tend to be a bit of a minimalist as well. And so when it comes to cleaning products, I love that I have a spray cleaner that cleans glass, that cleans countertops, that can clean my toilet and my tub. Why do we need a specific product for every single cleaning function when it's pretty much doing the same thing? And if you haven't thought about this before, we are just marketed to constantly, and you'll see this on ads all the time. Why did they create laundry pods? Because it was cool and gimmicky and easier for people to throw a pod in than to pour their liquid detergent into a cup. And so they're just trying to make something new so that it can become the new thing on the marketplace, and that it will basically get more people to buy it. So I don't personally think that we need to have a separate glass cleaner and a separate countertop cleaner and a separate toilet cleaner and a separate tub cleaner and a separate floor cleaner. It's just their way to market to us and to get us to buy their product. And it's so much easier to have one thing under the sink than five.
What do you recommend for the one product?
I love Meliora, honestly. Like I love their laundry products. I love their countertop cleaner. It's they sell it in a glass bottle, and there's a little. It's sort of like a what's the word? It's sort of like a little thing you drop in there, like
Like
it's
a concentrate?
concentrated.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a concentrated,
yeah,
but it's not liquid. It's not
yeah.
liquid. It's sort of like a little brick, and you add water in it, and you shake it up, and it works for all of that. They also have a really good scrub that I like. Well, I enjoy the experience of the scrub because it has some tea tree oil in it and some peppermint oil. So it feels good, like cleaning your sink with a scrub. But again, that's probably because I grew up using Comet at home. And so, a part of it is just kind of what you grew up with and getting, the feeling of clean, which is just truly that, a feeling. It's not necessarily, I mean, nobody's testing their sink to determine if there's any bacteria in there or not, but it's really that feeling of clean. So I love their scrub. I even use their bar dish soap. And I think swapping to soaps that are in bars is probably one of the hardest things that people have the option to do. And I have made a few little tweaks that have made it embraceable by not just me, but also my entire family. But it is one of those things where you got to change your mindset about it because it's not going to lather up like your Dawn is, and you're not going to be able to drizzle it on your pots and pans. You're going to have to use it in a different way for it to work. And so it is about being open-minded. And for me, it's not just about the toxins in the product, it's also about the environmental impact. And so I just am trying to minimize my use of plastic packaging. And so swapping to a bar dish soap in addition to my bar body soap is a good choice for me. But I will tell you, my shampoo is still in plastic containers because I haven't found the right shampoo bar that manages my curly, thick hair.
Got it. Yeah. Do you ever use those soap saver bags so that you kind of hang the soap so it doesn't sit?
Well, I don't use a soap saver bag, but I do have a chrome, um, like a soap holder that has a suction cup on it. And so it fully drains. And
Okay.
I think that's the other thing with like soaps
Yeah.
is just keeping them away from water as much as you can. And
Yeah.
because that's what breaks them down. Or for my dish soap, I have it in a cute mug on my countertop and it gets a lot of water in there. So it becomes kind of like a liquid soap. So I will
There you
dump the water out onto, if I'm, doing a sink load of dishes,
Mhm.
I will use the watered down soap and then it kind of dries out. And then next time
go.
I'll do that. So it's just a matter of, like I said, just using the product differently.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the number one thing I noticed with switching to like a shampoo, so or bar soap, and then just like the soap that I use like on my body, the shelf that I had in the shower, it was like, ugh, yeah,
Yes.
just kind of getting super gross, and now I'm having to like really clean that shelf, and
Yes.
so I found these soap saver bags that so then I can hang it, and then it just like dries out really well and then it's not like getting like creating more mess for me to clean in the shower as well.
Yeah.
'Cause that's like no one likes cleaning. Well, maybe some people like cleaning the shower. I don't like cleaning
I
the
don't
shower.
like it either.
Like of all the cleaning to do, I don't know why. The shower is like my least favorite. So I start with it so I just get it over with. And then it's like, so if it's even worse, then you're like grumbling about it. So anyway, like that, I've those little bags, I can hang it on this little thing and then they don't create more mess and it functions well. So my hair is easier than yours.
Yes.
So like the bar soap for shampoo actually is, yeah, it does a good job. So, I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
I think it's more the conditioner is the problem. I need like a,
Mhm.
highly moisturizing thing that's going to, kind of weigh my thick hair down. And so,
Yeah.
One of these days I'll find the right product. Although they'll invent a new product that'll work perfect, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. New stuff is getting like people are doing new stuff all the time. We interviewed somebody that started her own line of products.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe that was released maybe, I don't know, last month maybe. She didn't have shampoo though.
Hmm.
But she had a bunch of products and she was like, I needed something, so I started making my own. And then
Yeah.
now I have this whole line of products.
Yeah.
So there's like
That's
people
awesome.
out there that are like wanting this, and if they can't find it, they're making their own lines. So
Yeah.
it's like really cool.
Yeah.
Like
Very
I love
cool.
that. I don't know enough about this kind of stuff, so I'm not probably not going to make my own.
No,
But I
that's like the
appreciate the people who are.
Meliora. That's like the Meliora founder. I had her on my podcast a while ago, and yeah, she was a chemist, and she decided to just create her own products because she wanted them to work really well, and then she wanted them to be toxin free. So,
Mhm.
and she wanted them to be packaged in an eco-friendly way. They're very eco-friendly minded. So, um, another reason why I like Meliora.
Mhm. No, I love that.
Well, but both of you, we're not creating our own products, but you are taking your money and your dollars and you are putting them into someone that is. And I think a lot of times we, what is put out there in society, what is marketed, um, depends on where we spend our money. You know, if we are not supporting um, a cheap brand full of chemicals and we're not supporting that, well, there's always someone that's going to support it, but they're going to stop making as much, or they're going to start stepping up to the standards and the expectations that people are looking for. So I think it's important to kind of put your money where your belief system is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've seen huge changes in the marketplace. I mean, just in the last few years, just look at how many people are trying, even big brands are attempting to go more eco-friendly or claiming that they're more toxin free because they're noticing that people are changing how they're spending their money. And so if you see that it's happening at large, then you know that it's becoming a driving force. And I truly believe that, we each can just make our own choices, but they do add up to a bigger impact.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we do live in a home, with us, our family, friends, whoever you live with. But I think sometimes we forget that how much we do matter in that bigger picture in society. There, we do make choices that are individual to us, obviously, but really valuing, like, I believe in X, Y, or Z, and standing up and saying this is how I'm going to live my life. Those are that's how the change happens. That's how the next generation sees you living like that. And so that next generation, that's their norm. They don't even know any different. And so
Mhm.
now it's like we're gonna have all of these like little kiddos that are like growing up and they're just like, absolutely not. This is not tolerable.
Yeah.
Whereas like the rest of us are just like, we're like, oh shoot, I should change how I think. Like
Yeah.
stages of change as like
Yeah.
the gears turn, and it's like it takes longer because you're like, I've had this past that didn't think like that, and you're just like use of plastics, and if plastic's okay, you just recycle it, it's fine.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh no, we have floating microplastics that we're consuming because it's all in our
Right.
oceans, and yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's the marketing is very interesting, is what I'll say, and how
Yeah.
um what we thought was okay is actually not, and so we learn, right? And so we don't feel bad about it just
Mhm.
because we're making decisions that we didn't realize weren't really the best for us, for our health, for our community. So that's it's okay to learn and just continue to grow. Like hindsight's 2020. What I didn't know 10 years ago, I can't change. Like all I can do is move forward
Right.
with
Right.
it. So like
Yeah.
that's the other big thing is like not guilting people into like, I can't believe, like, I mean, I was using herbal essences. I was, right?
Mhm.
And then a friend of
Yeah.
mine called and was like, I need to go through all of your stuff, like, because I was like pregnant and it was a whole thing. And she was like, no, like I've just like learned all this information and like you need to like think about this. And I was like, oh my gosh, like how did I not? I don't know why.
Yeah.
I had I was eating organic with like my food, but I wasn't even considering what I was putting on my body. Like
Yeah.
not even a consideration. And so anyway, like we all do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, we only come from what we know, right? So I knew a few select people that grew up and their parents were living a more organic lifestyle before it was popular. But the majority of us, live in, mainstream America and our parents were just doing the best that they could too. And they were, I think, marketed too, of course. And I believe that back then people didn't realize how much they were marketed to. And marketing really kind of began like in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, like we look at the cigarette ads that they used to have, and they used to have like doctors saying, you know, I prescribe the cigarettes. Well, there are some Dove commercials. I don't know if you've seen them, but there are some Dove commercials that are like dermatologist recommended. And it's like, okay, it's so fragrant. It makes me sneeze, just because the marketing ad says that it's dermatologist recommended doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for you. But
Yeah.
anyway, I just think our parents were doing the best that they could, and we're just doing the best that we can. And knowledge is
Mm.
power.
And in 10 years, we may find out something we thought we were doing really well on isn't. It's always changing. There's always research. We're always learning.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
exactly.
that's all you can do. It's not about beating yourself up. It's just about as you learn new information, take it to heart. If it seems like it's going to be helpful for you in some way, then there goes that series of decision making that might
Mhm.
mean a change is coming up. Really, like we never have it figured out ever,
Right.
right? I mean, like I think
Right.
as long as you know you don't ever really know, then it's like you're constantly in the like open to learning, you know?
Right.
But it's like when we
Mhm.
know it and we close our mind, then that's when we're going to stop learning and we're going to stop progressing. So
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that because you listen to somebody like, oh, now I'm going to switch to this because they said it's to be true. We still go through
Right.
that deductive reasoning process. Like they said this, where do those sources come from? Is this true? Is it valid? Is what they're saying meaningful to my life? And so there's that you should discern like who is
Mhm.
this and do they stand to gain from what they're telling me, right?
Right.
And so and they may gain and you may gain, right? So it might be a win-win, or they may only gain and you just spend money. Um,
Yeah.
and that's like it's tricky. It's very hard to know the difference.
Mhm.
But I think the more that you really try and think that way and like considering the source, and that will be helpful with moving forward with decision making.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, as far as moving forward, so Megan, if people want to find you and they want to learn more about you, so where do they go again?
Well, you can go to Instagram. I'm the Megan Mikkelsen. You can follow me. You can listen to my podcast, which is called Toxin-free Talk. I will say that I have a full-time job that has gotten to be more intense lately. So my episodes are less frequent, but there are almost 200 episodes. So you can start back at the beginning and laugh at how low quality my podcast was and then see it progress throughout the years. You can also find me on my website, which is detox.design. And I have all my podcasts are transcribed there too, if you're more of a reader than a listener. So you can find information there too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
have a safe swap guide too on my website too. If you just want like quick clickable links, you can download that and then, just see my favorite brands of all the products. So,
oh, that's awesome. I
We
like that,
will,
like
we
like
can
easy
tag that
stuff.
in the description below for people.
Absolutely, yeah. That'll be in the description of the episode. So just kind of scroll down to find that. And if you're watching this and you found it helpful, definitely check Megan out and see if there's like more information that you can gain, because she's a wealth of knowledge. And if you found this episode helpful, share it with somebody. They might find it to be helpful as well. So now you're just like furthering to spread that knowledge and creating that community of people that are understanding how important toxin-free living really is for not only you, your family, but then also the community. And you really can be part of that change that's happening, which is great. So follow, like us, subscribe, and we've got more episodes coming out every week. So it's been great, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the episode today. If you would like to learn more about how Two Gals can support you, then join our Two Gals Insiders membership, which can be found at www.2-gals.com. Also, don't forget, follow us on social media. We're on Facebook as well as Instagram. Okay, everybody. Bye. Enjoy your week.